Often the gospel of doubting Thomas is presented or understood as if he was in a lab coat or something. He was a bit of a scientist who had to work it out somehow intellectually before he could commit. Doesn't seem to really grasp the context of this situation very well. Thomas is grief-stricken. He's lost not just an idea or a principle, but the one he loved, who was going to change everything, the Messiah. And he's seen the man he loved tortured, humiliated, an attempt by the empire to erase him. And he can't simply believe the testimony of others. Perhaps it seems too painful. What if it's not true? So this is a story of grief and extraordinary transformation of what seems unable to be transformed, the horrors of the crucifixion. Today is also Divine Mercy Sunday. And that's such an appropriate coincidence, having lost Pope Francis, the great apostle of mercy, the one who insisted to you and I and those outside the church, and we know there's been enormous outpouring of grief from many who aren't Catholic, as well as Catholics, but he insisted that our job, you and I, is to firstly experience the mercy that Jesus Christ brings, the mercy of the Father, in a relationship of love. To be able to say yes to that love and believe that we can be born again in that merciful love, to be freed from the shackles of our own sin or the hurt we may carry from the sin of others, that all of that can be transformed in the body of Jesus Christ. And so it's so important that Thomas does want to put his fingers in the wounds and the side. He wants to see that body that seems to have changed everything in its own change, from crucified to glorified, but still bearing those wounds. The body that was there as they walked together around the Decapolis, the body that was reared by Mary, the body that laughed, the body that drank wine at the wedding feast of Cana, and the body that was stripped and murdered. It's so important for you and I, too, that we understand that that body saved the world, not some idea of a body or a story on its own. In the mystery of our bodies, we experience all of the love, all of the decay, all of the suffering of this life. The word mercy, the most common word for mercy anyway in the Old Testament is hesed, and it implies, as we understand it, justice, that there's an act of mercy here that's also an act of justice from the Father. But there's another word, rahamim, which connects somehow more profoundly with a visceral sense of the experience of mercy, and actually has the same root as the word for womb. That God's mercy for you and I is like a mother's love for her child in the womb. It's as deep as it can get in this life. And that's the strongest analogy we could possibly have. And it is of the body. We experience a healing in our bodies with God's mercy. And that is a profound thing that's so hard to understand. In the silence of that loving exchange to which we're always invited, there's this promise of a spiritual healing. But it can be felt. It can be experienced in the fibers of our being. Thomas's doubts arise from grief, but for many people, the journey of faith will always involve, often, doubt. For those who've been given the gift of faith, there is a certainty, and to quote Cardinal John Henry Newman, 10,000 questions do not one doubt raise for those who have the gift of faith. Questions are fundamental to understanding and deepening, enriching our faith. But that certainty is not a mathematical formula. That's not the nature of our faith. Like Thomas, we're called to a relationship with the mystery of Jesus Christ. This extraordinary love that wants nothing more than for you and I to be healed in body and soul. But it is a relationship, firstly. Mercy simply makes no sense unless we've experienced and we've fallen into the love of God. Then, of course, the blocks, the sin, the web of hurt makes sense for the first time as a block to that love. And all we want to do is be rid of it so that we can love back more freely. Pope Francis was a man who clearly experienced the love of Jesus Christ. He'd been freed by it. In an interview not long after he was made Pope, he was asked, "Who is Jorge Bergoglio? Who are you, Pope Francis?" There was a long pause, and he said, "He is a sinner in need of God's mercy." Now that sounds to people who don't have the gift of faith like some kind of negative statement, that he thought he wasn't any good. That's not it. It was a yes to God's love, yes to God's promise of healing, yes to God's promise of freedom from sin. In this extraordinary dance of love that you and I are offered, are called into with the Holy Trinity. So mercy is at the heart of why you and I are here. It's intimate, it's deep, it's beyond words, it's held in the body, exchanged in the body, and here we have the sacrament of the body of Christ. We are the body of Christ, and we receive his flesh and blood, not as an idea, an abstraction, a principle. We metabolize mysteriously the mystery of this person. We're called to understand with our limited capacity the beauty on offer in this sacrament, because it's the beauty of Jesus Christ himself.